Okay, well, good afternoon and welcome to the show, Ryan Cassidy. How you
Hi,
doing?
Mr. Jeff Durr. I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you having me.
I'll tell you, I am so excited to have you on the show, I can't wait for the audience to hear, you know, about you and your background and everything you've accomplished and all the things that you're doing now. But I'm just going to blow smoke, at you for the next however long we talk because you've done some
Hey,
really cool things. But I just want to let everybody know that I met you playing football at Rutgers. I had the privilege of speaking to the team, a number of years back while you were there, and you approached me afterwards, and we just had a chat and we talked. The next thing you know, you're interning with our firm for the summer,
yep.
and I'll tell you, it was a pleasure just having you here under our roof. And I want to get into a lot of that a little bit later, but let's let the audience, hear like tell them a little bit about yourself.
Oh, please, Jeff. Once again, thank you so much for having me, man. And since day one that you and I met, it was so cordial, friendly, platonic, man. And you've been such a great mentor to me since that day back in probably 2019, 5 years ago. I also, before I get into my introduction, I want to give you your flowers, Jeff. You creating this platform to connect with, current, former, potentially future athletes in the collegiate level, I think is a really, really cool thing, man, because there's a lot that goes on behind closed doors that doesn't really see the light of day. And the fact that you're
Yeah,
creating this platform for us to kind of express those things either in real time or retrospectively, I think is super duper cool. So I appreciate you
yeah.
having me. But yeah, so Ryan Cassidy, I grew up in South Jersey, small town called Mount Laurel. And I had a really, really great childhood. Played sport my whole life. Was mostly football, baseball. Got to the high school level, and like I think this football thing could work. Started doing a little bit of long snapping, and that was my route towards that Division One or FBS level. And found myself in my home state, Rutgers University, playing in the Big Ten, and it was an experience. I think that every single connection that I was able to form, every relationship I was able to forge, there was way too many opportunities there. I still don't think that I took advantage of enough, but I appreciate you being kind enough to say, hey, I think Ryan's done some cool things. But yeah, and graduated in 2021 with a degree in economics and a minor in business administration and art history and theatrical studies. And
That's a lot of
ended
stuff.
up having a really, really great start to my career in a technology consulting company. And yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But hey, man, we're just
Yeah.
getting started. I'm 25 years old, couple years out of school, but still a lot more left to go on my journey.
Yeah, and for those who can't see the screen, you're repping the Rutgers gear, which is great. Definitely great.
Always, man. Rutgers Red.
Let's start out. Let's go backwards a little bit. You're in high school. You think you got a shot at playing at the next level. Where did the inspiration come from? Because you could have went Division 3, Division 2. You could have went one double A. You just say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go to one of the biggest school or the biggest school in New Jersey. One of the biggest programs out there, the oldest program in the college football history. What inspired you to
Yeah.
do that?
Great
What was
question. I think that I knew that in college, I wanted to do it big. I've always been a hey, if there is a risk to take, that is a risk that I want to take. And I think that we can get into a lot of cliches. The greatest things in life are on the other side of getting uncomfortable and like finding a space that is like a little too large. But also like I don't know, Jeff. I've always been like I want to get into a really big pond to make that pond feel small. I want to be in a really big place and make that big place feel like it is easy for me to navigate, easy for me to see who's to my left, to my right. So I say that I went to a big high school. I went to a high school for, geez, probably 2,200 kids. So that scale, with a lot of people in my classes and in my extracurriculars and like organizationally, like it was just kind of innately built into how I was raised in my high school upbringing and education. But then as soon as I started long snapping, I mean, I was ranked number two. We can talk about who was ranked number one. Your friend of mine, Mr. Billy Taylor, the
Yep.
All-American himself. I just realized that I think I got a shot at this. And my brother played football at Bucknell. He went to the FCS level, played at the Patriot League, phenomenal education. He has an amazing life. But I looked at what he did and said, hey, if there is any opportunity for me to one up my brother, and whether that's the division of college football that I play, I'm gonna try and friggin' do it. So I did it. Was really fortunate, ended up getting a preferred walk-on offer from Rutgers, Maryland, and Virginia Tech after taking some camps the summer of going into my senior year, so 2016. And it was cool, man, because like I got some sniffs from, the FCS schools of the world, Delaware, Stony Brook, Monmouth. But I will say one quick story that kind of instilled like a lot of, I would say like, professionalism within me was my first camp that I went to that season. So it was probably May or June of 2016 was at Fordham. And I was big on Fordham. It was less than 2 hours away from home, South Jersey to New York, phenomenal business school. Went to that camp and they said, hey, checked out your tape, think you're in a good spot to potentially earn an offer here. And I'm like, hey, this is cool. Like I had not had any offers or anything like that yet. The recruiting season was really ramping up. So I get to the camp, sit down. It was head coach Andrew Briner at the time, and I sat down. And you know how sometimes, Jeff, you know how it goes, and folks listening, if you're in a world with a college football coach, they say, "Hey, Dickney, everybody like lock in, like
Yep.
it's go time." And I'm like, "All right, man." My dad always told me growing up, whenever that trigger happens, he says, "Flip the switch." So when that happens, I flip the switch. My eyes are deadlocked on Coach Andrew Briner saying, "Hey, everybody, this is what we're going to be doing at the specialist portion of the campus. We're going to be doing offensive and defensively." And I'm laser focused on everything that's going on because I didn't want to miss a beat. I wanted to make sure that if I was going to show up and there was athletes there that were more talented than me, that my 100% was their 80%. That means I got to go 120, and I'm fine with that. So whatever the effort or the investment that I need to give to succeed, I was willing to give that. And we end up like breaking it down, like, hey, like go Rams or something like that, Fordham Rams. And he pulls me over after he gives his speech and goes, Ryan, I don't care how you do today. We've seen your tape. We know, what you're capable of. You have an offer to play here simply because of the demeanor that you just expressed in front of me, in front of everybody else, to your left, to your right, to your peers. And I was like, wow, man, I didn't even have to do anything. And he was like, no, we looked at your tape. Relax, buddy. But it was a cool tip to be like, hey, sometimes if your demeanor is good and you really just go in with the right intentions, that things can go well.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
what was the deciding factor then? Rutgers. What made you say, hey, that's where I'm going?
I think it was, gosh, I'll be honest, I was a walk-on, Jeff. In-state tuition's not too bad, man.
Right.
In-state tuition's not too bad. I got to play in the Big Ten Conference. We were across the field from the Ohio States, and when Joe Burrow was there, and like every other athlete that we played, I mean, was across the field from the Saquon Barkleys of the world, and like everybody in Michigan, and
Yeah.
it's cool. And I will say the reason why Rutgers was so appealing to me was definitely number one. I thought I had a shot to play. I thought that the position I was going in at long snapper had, about a year or two of development, and then like, hey, go contribute. I also knew that at that level, if I did want to potentially switch positions, Rutgers was in a bit of a transformative time heading into the
Yep.
Big Ten, and I'm like, that kind of transition, I saw opportunity in there. I'm like, hey, if they're looking for a scrappy walk on to run down on kickoff or kick return or block on punt return,
Yep.
I was willing to do anything and everything once again. And I think that Rutgers just had a lot of the opportunities that I was looking for academically, education wise. It's right up the road from, good old exit 4 on the turnpike up
Yep.
to exit 8 on the turnpike. And, man, or exit 9 rather. But it was everything. It was proximity, it was education, it was athletics, it was, a lot of people from my high school going there. It was a perfect storm.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, so now you go from high school, you're Rutgers, and you accomplished so many things at Rutgers off the field.
Yeah.
So tell everybody how being a college athlete helped contribute to what you did off the field.
Yeah. Yeah. Jeff, I think that no matter what, being a college athlete is going to test who you are, where you're at any point in time. It could be Sunday morning and you really don't feel like waking up, but you know that you have to go and
Gotta go.
have treatment. You got to go, man. You got to show up. And I think that for me, realizing that once again, as a walk-on, I was playing with the Isaiah Pacheco's two-time Super Bowl champion, the draft picks, Bo Melton, Max Melton, like all the Kamoko Toure, like Sebastian Joseph Day, all these people who have had so much success. And,
Yeah.
I was a speck of dust in like that kind of tier and echelon athletic wise. So I knew that I had to kind of compensate. I was definitely a locker room guy. I'll own that, and I'm fine with that. I really embraced my role. I think that was the thing for me was like, all right, I'm not going to be a captain like I was my senior year of high school, leading the team to the state championship game. Like that's just it wasn't my role. And I think that realizing that my freshman year, like, hey, if I'm not going to be playing too much, I got to do something somewhere. Like I got to rise the ranks somewhere.
Yeah.
So I found the student athlete advisory committee, and it was everything to me. Like the fact that I had a team of 120 plus, teammates and a phenomenal support staff and coaching staff, for both iterations, for both Coach Ash and Coach Shiano, that meant everything to me. But the fact that I could have another team, like, come on now, like I'm going to join every single team that I possibly can. So join the student athlete advisory committee at the Rutgers level, the campus level, took that to the Big Ten conference, and then took that to the NCAA Division I level. And I thought to myself, like you said it a couple minutes ago, Jeff, but like off the field, off the field. I think that of everybody who has been in the world of Division I college athletics, I think I've probably accomplished a lot more than others have off the field,
Oh yeah.
and I'm fine with that. Because once again, like what was my role, what was my platform, and what was I going to do with it? So
Yeah.
I think that I did some cool things in the world of advocacy, and I'm just grateful that I got to be pushed to really understand what I was capable of as a leader, as a contributor,
Yeah.
and everything in between and outside.
I'm going to go backwards in time a little bit. And when you were here as an intern,
Yeah.
right? Um, I knew within seconds, as soon as you walked in the door, the way you dress, the way you comb your hair, the way you present yourself, the way your articulation, and the way you take constructive correction, advice, coachability. I was like, and I told you, I'm like, man, you're going to be an AD one day at some powerhouse school, or
Hey,
you're gonna run the Big Ten. You're gonna do. And I think still your future could still be going backwards or go back
hey.
to and run the Big Ten. I think you can do that because your ability, your skill sets, your demeanor, it's you're not normal. You know that you are far
I,
above.
hey, man.
You talk about the athletes that you just mentioned before, how great they are, what they do. Well, what you do and who you are and where you're going, you're going to be just as high or even higher in your professional level with what you do because your skill sets and your ability is just, it's phenomenal,
I
phenomenal.
appreciate that, Jeff. Yeah, and real quick, once again, thank you. That means the absolute world coming from you. You've been such a good friend and mentor to me since that first day we met at the Hale Center. But yeah, real quick on the note you just mentioned, you come in, you want to look good, you want to feel good. It's a look good, feel good, play good
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah.
I wanted to show up on day one of the internship and say, I want to be open to everything like you just said, but also I want to present myself in a way that's, hey, if my work maybe I have some days. Everybody's going to have days it's like, hey, didn't practice well. Hey, didn't work well that day. But if you can still have your environment, everybody's a product of their environment. If you can dress well, if you can look good, I think that kind of translates to productivity as well.
Yeah.
But since that day that you said, hey, you shine your shoes. I had not. I think I was just lucky. It might have rained the day before. My shoes looked a little shiny, and you said, you shine your shoes. I was like, I got to get a shoe shiner now. So that exact day, Jeff, I got a
Yeah.
shoe shiner, and I have not had one single day that I have gone into an office that I have not shined my shoes
That's great.
because of that exact comment that you said to me. And I mean, how cool is that to
Yeah.
have like those little tidbits and
Yeah.
moments that you really remember that are like so foundational to how
Yeah.
you grow and develop.
Yeah, it's the details, and when it comes to shoes, for all those that are listening, they might be like, "What are you talking about, shoes?" Right? Most people think, well, nobody sees my shoes, nobody looks at my shoes. I was taught 36 years ago that you go from your top to the bottom in complete detail, and the shoes are the most important part because that's where you think no one's looking. And when they
Bingo.
look down, they see the shoes, like, wow, you got nice shoes. You got shine shoes. This kid pays attention to what? Detail, and that's what people
Yeah.
want, you know? So
Yeah.
what advice can you give? I'm going to hop around a little bit, right? What advice can you give to young men or women, high school? They're seniors, juniors, seniors. They're getting the letters. They're getting, well, not letters anymore, probably emails, right? They're getting the
Yeah.
connections. They're getting reached out by college sports programs. What advice can you give these high school kids about preparing, let's say, mentally for the transition from high school, you're the man, you're the guy, to you go to the college level now. Now everybody else is just as good, if not better, right? And how
Yeah.
how do they handle that transition?
Yeah, I'm going to be super blunt and honest for everybody listening, and to you as well, Jeff. You got to humble yourself. I wish I humbled myself. I wish that I was ready the first week that I got to Rutgers to be in a locker room that was not even with my teammates. It was a separate locker room in the back of the Hale Center because I was late to camp that year, and I thought to myself, like, is this it? Am I just going to be a literally back of the locker room person? Am I going to get treated like everybody else? So that was, just specifically for me as a walk on. But at the same time, even the folks who are, really earning their scholarships, showing up, you get all the gear, you get their room and board, you get your books handed to you on day one of class. I think that everybody's going to have to be humbled at some point or another, because as much as those first moments in time can be as glorious as possible, and I will say that, getting to campus, being in your gear, and putting on the pads, strapping it up for the first time, that is euphoria. That is complete and utter euphoria, especially for a sport that you really love and it's
Yeah,
going to be a really damn good time.
yeah,
Like, there's nothing like that. But in the midst of all of that glory and goodness is going to be a lot of moments of adversity. And I think that I'm not going to say intentionally put yourself into a stage where you can experience adversity, but I will say talk to people. And I say humble yourself as in get vulnerable. Talk to former athletes, find mentors like yourself, Jeff, and say, hey, what was the toughest thing that you had to go through as an athlete? How did you prepare? For me, I was just going to camps. Candidly, I had a phenomenal time the summer before I went to Rutgers, just like really embracing my family, my friends. Like, for me, life is about moments and relationships. And, I think the two can kind of, be interchangeable and feed into one another. So, amidst the moments and the relationships, you're going to need a support system. So preparation wise, prepare to need support. Whether that is coming from home, whether that's coming from your friends, whether that's coming from your support staff at school, there's always going to have to be some sort of element of support in your life. And the sooner in your life that you can admit that I am vulnerable, I need some help, whether it's in the classroom, mentally, physically, I think that kind of vulnerability is power.
that's awesome. And it's funny. Yes, I don't mean funny like I'm laughing, but funny that,
Yeah.
a lot of high school seniors who are really good, coming out, their ego
Mm,
sometimes gets in the way.
yeah.
And when you show up, I remember showing up as a freshman in 1983. Like, and people know how old I am, right? But and I thought, hey, we're state champs. We won everything. I was good. And you show up on campus, you're like, wait a minute, these guys are better than me. I'm like,
Yeah.
how can that be? I thought I was going to be the guy. I thought I'm the man. And all of a sudden now it's time to go to work, and now it's time to fight. And like you said, you got to you got to be humble. Hey, realize, hey, there's other guys out there that are good too, and I got to go to work. It's not just going to be handed to you, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Caldwell.
it takes a
Yeah.
lot of courage, man, to be a walk on, also, right? You're paying your way to be there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
I mean, you're right.
to me, that's the heart and soul of college sports. It's not the scholarship, it's not the money, it's not all this. It's the heart, and to walk on the level that high and say, I'm going to give it my best effort for nothing, and I'm going to pay for this pain, is incredible. So that says a lot about who you are as a man, and what you want to accomplish, and what you're willing to go through to get where you want to be.
True,
Which is,
Jeff. Yeah, I mean, Caldwell High School prepared you well. Lenape High School, I think, prepared me well. But then you get to the next level, and it's a different beast. It's a
oh
different beast. But at the same time, once again, the sooner that you can just jump into that head first, the sooner you learn.
yeah. So let's talk about that. You're at Rutgers for 4 years. You had so many great moments, so many cool things happening, and you had some tough stuff too, which we'll talk about in a minute. But
Yeah.
if you can put your finger on the one most memorable moment that, wow, this was incredible while I was at Rutgers,
Yeah.
what would it be?
Easy. This is the easiest question in the world, Jeff. And it's unfortunate that it kind of revolves around COVID. But this is a moment that I think was both full of a lot of emotion, a lot of adversity, and it's probably a story of kind of resilience that turned into, a lot of success for some people involved. So let's go back to March 13th, 2020. The world shuts down. Actually, the day that Rutgers University is going on spring break. So we're like, okay, maybe this thing dies down in a week. We take another week of quote unquote spring break. You start the virtual classes, everything like that. And of course, world shuts down hardcore. So we're like, all right, we got to make sure that we're still lifting, we're still running. So the program that Coach Jay Butler implemented virtually was probably the greatest example of innovation in sport that I have ever seen. I kid you not. The amount of attention, you want to talk about attention to detail, that staff there. And this was, 3 months into Coach Shiano being there. We hadn't even had spring ball. He had no idea what any of us were capable of, really, really just scratching the surface. So this was an opportunity for all of us in our respective environments to prove, hey, I am willing to. I drove back up to school and got weights from the weight room and had 325 pounds in my driveway for 3 months. It's
Wow.
like that. Oh, come on now. If that doesn't show that you're really willing to commit to something, I don't know what does. So all that just to say, we're lifting in our garages and we are running at whatever field or whatever patch of grass that we could find. Um, and the last day of our program was probably on, let's say it was a Friday, I think. And then, we ended up getting the call to come back to school. And then I'm almost positive that it was June 15th. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was a Monday. I
Man,
just
you
don't
got
know
the
why.
details down. Jesus.
I'll never forget it, man. I'll never friggin' forget this. So we pop into the Hale Center and we're like, hey, all right, first day of workouts, let's do this. Everybody's got masks and stuff like that. We go out to the field. Coach Butler's like, all right, fellas, we tried to prepare you for this conditioning test. And it was just like a first iteration of it. It wasn't like the full-on conditioning test that we would take before camp. But all of us are kind of starstruck. And, we go by position groups. So it's like skill, which is receivers, DBs,
Yep.
big skill, which is tight end, fullback, linebacker, hand off the ground D ends, and then the big skill linemen are offense defensive linemen. So I'm in that big skill group for like specialists and then fullback tight end. So I'm running alongside. I'm gonna call these two guys out. I love them to death. It's Isaiah Pacheco, Mr. Pop himself, and Giovanni Haskins. The three of us are kind of running like within 5 to 6 feet of each other, and this is 16 110s that we had to run.
Oh,
And I believe it was 16 110s in under 16 seconds, in probably 105-degree heat. And it was
oh,
brutal. So we're running this thing, and Pop was struggling. You could kind of tell that like some of the guys were really struggling. I was struggling. Giovanni Haskins is literally pulling onto my shirt like, Cass,
oh
you got to
yeah.
pull me with you, man. You got to pull me with you.
Oh my
And
God.
I say all that just to say, and Giovanni and Isaiah have both now played professional football. Pop has won 2 Super Bowl rings, but we finished that thing up, and I think I might have got, of the 16, maybe 5 or 6 that I passed. Giovanni probably had like 3 or 4 that he passed. And like every position group really struggled. Isaiah Pacheco, I think he might have gotten 1, but it was
Yeah.
probably closer to 0 than it was to 16. So we finished that up, and afterwards, Coach Butler and Coach Shiano get the numbers, and they're just like a little upset with how we performed, and that it very justified, very fair. Everybody was kind of starstruck by the deal, and I'll never forget it. I don't know why. I think it was Coach Butler that looked at Pop and said, you know, you're a running back who can't even run, and we're
Oh
all
my
looking
God.
to each other like, he can say that to our star running back? Like even the guy who we know is going to be an all Big Ten selection and going to get drafted and is going to win a Super Bowl. We all knew that about Pop in that moment. But I think that moment for those three guys specifically, for Pop, was like, that's it. I'm never going to have a moment of embarrassment like that again. And pick Super Bowl. I'm about to cry just talking about that because I think
Yeah.
that was a real cool turning point for him. Giovanni Haskins, same deal. Like every time after that we practiced together, he was like, Cass, that, man, those sprints got me, man. But I appreciate you, um, pulling me through. And I was just, once again, just some random walk on that he was able to kind of get vulnerable with me and be like, I need your help. So I think that that was a moment of growth for him. And then for me, it was just like, I'm still the locker room guy. I'm
Yeah.
still the guy that's like, hey, when somebody's going to rely on me, when somebody puts their arm on my shoulder, I'm going to stand strong. I'm going to make sure that I can be a crutch for them, that I can be a resource, that I can be a tool to possibly some way make this environment better because that's what I was all about. That was always my MO. But I don't know why that moment's always going to be one that sticks with me.
So, just think about that, what you said. I've asked this question a number of times, right? And I get, we won this, we won that, we traveled here, we did this, we did that. Your moment, it's not about really the game. Your moment's not about winning this, beating Michigan. Your moment is about how you helped and inspired other guys on your team who you knew skill wise were way up here,
Yeah,
right? And they're looking to you, say, look, man, pull me through this. I mean, that's incredible.
yeah, it was
That is
cool.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
appreciate it.
I'm figuring you're going to talk about a game and you're going boom right to the who you are as a man and how you're a leader, which is
Jeff,
it's just awesome,
there
right?
everybody's got some wins that they had, man. But like, geez, if you can extract a story, a narrative, something that really kind of just like goes well beyond the surface level, not even surface level, but the face value of a win. If I told you about the time that we beat, I don't know, maybe Maryland on homecoming, during homecoming my freshman year, I could tell you that story. That'd be great. What went into that win? How did practice look like that week? How did practice look like after that? Like what makes that moment, what sandwiched it to being something that really mattered? I think it's what feeds into it, the moment itself and what comes after. What's the response? How we
Right.
prepared for that moment. This was the moment itself, and this is what came after.
That's awesome. So think about lessons. What lessons have you learned, as a college athlete? Like what's the biggest thing that stands out for you that you learn as become, while you were a college athlete?
Oh gosh, I think it goes back to a really great story from Damon West. So Damon West was able to speak to our team as well. And for those not familiar with Mr. Damon West, his story of the coffee bean is one that is really instrumental to being a contributing member of society, but also just being a positive influence, a light to radiate some sort of optimism onto whatever world that you operate in. He came in and apologies, Damon West, if I don't get this story correctly, but you talk about three different types of food, I will say. So the first, let's talk about is a hard-boiled egg. You put an egg itself into a boiling pot of water. What happens to the egg, Jeff?
It hardens up.
Hardens up. That's correct. It gets hard on the inside, but it doesn't crack. Everything is going on the inside of that egg.
Yep.
You put a carrot into a boiling pot of water. What happens to the carrot?
Gets mushy,
Gets
right?
nice and mushy, super super soft. You
Yep.
can put a toothpick right through it, and it'll
Yep.
turn into puree. And then lastly, if you put a coffee bean into a boiling pot of water, what happens to that water, and what happens to the coffee bean?
It changes the water.
It changes the water. It changes its environment. So
Yep.
that means that in a boiling pot of water, when things are tough, and then I'm going to connect this to my world because I think that, for me, every single day, every single month, every week, all of it was tough, Jeff. Being a walk-on, once again, I was at such a deficit from day one until last day, that I realized that like I got to be the coffee bean. I got to make my environment better for me to show up and encourage myself to show up, encourage my other people around me, my teammates to show up. And I think that I try to take that mentality into work as well. The interns that me, Billy Taylor, Matt Sportelli, Jim Anulak, we were there, but there was also 20 other interns in there, and I'm like, all right, they're probably a little smarter than we are just because they got a lot more time in the classroom, but that doesn't mean that I'm not able to have some sort of influence on them. So it was like I realized what my strengths were. I realized that, I'm definitely a speaker. I'm definitely somebody who expresses themselves a lot. So what does that mean? How can I have that strength of mine be the coffee that makes the entire pot better because I was there? And I think that sometimes you can also drink other people's coffee. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the metaphor here is that it doesn't always have to be about, you are the person in the position of pressure in this boiling pot of water that you need to deliver. You need to make this pot of boiling water coffee. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more so a lot more relative and a lot less objective in a way that's like, how can I make this boiling pot of water coffee right now, and what does that mean to myself and others?
And and I've actually read that book, and
It's great.
it's a great book, So now it's so funny. As you answer these questions, it's leading me into, okay, it's automatically, I got to ask him this next. So you talked about being on the field, your greatest moment, pulling those guys along. You talked about changing the environment for people and making things better and providing optimism. But talk about the team. Talk about
Mm,
teamwork. Talk about the interpersonal relationships. Talk about the dynamics of being part of that, the camaraderie, the bus rides, the plane rides, the gym, the all that comes along with it. Because the traditional student, as much as they have fun in college and have a good time, meet a lot of people, is they don't understand the
yeah.
camaraderie, the teamwork, the interpersonal relationships that you build as an athlete. I don't care what sport it is, but in football, when you're getting beat up in August, and that carries through the year,
Oh
and
yeah.
people talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love this question, Jeff, just because, like you just said, it is such a privilege to just be in that position to look to your left, look to your right, and say, I truly love this person. I will put my life on the line to make sure that this person succeeds. This person has a good life. This person has a good day. I think that the fact that we were able to, at Rutgers, amidst a very trying time as a program, amidst a coaching change while I was there, the years from 2020 or 2017 to 2021 were super transformative in a way that I think pushed a lot of the people who were on that team to grow stronger and grow closer. And yeah, absolutely. We lost a lot of guys to transfer portal as it came about back in that day, 17 to 18. I think that the fact that we were all able to look at each other in those moments of adversity and like the bus rides and everything, like how cool is it that you get to have some fun with somebody Thursday at practice to beat the snot out of them. Friday, you get to have a nice walk through that's super chill, go through the team dinners and things like that. Show up on Saturday, kick the snot out of somebody else, get a win, and then go and either have a good time, celebrate, and party next to that same person. You have that entire journey, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday with the same people, and you do that, 12, 13, 14 times a year if you're lucky.
Yeah,
Come on, man. You don't get those opportunities very often. So I think the scarcity of it all is what makes it so sacred and makes it so valuable, is that in a sport like football, you only have so many opportunities. It's not like baseball where you have like a lot of games. Some pitchers only play maybe a third of the games every single year. This is like football is truly the ultimate team sport, and the way that you're
yeah,
able to kind of express the way that you feel in a game like football is so
yeah.
interesting. And I want to quote one of my greatest coaches as an athlete, Nunzio Campanelli, told us in the tight end room that you show each other how much you care by how hard you play. Think about
Mm,
that. You show the people that you see every single day, you show them, I care about you, I care about this program by how friggin' hard you play, by how hard you work out. And, I'll never forget it. He always used to say, like, train well, or he used to say, just very encompassing of our lifestyle. It would be, rest hard, train like an animal, hit the books hard. It was just like the level of intensity is what I'm saying here, Jeff, is like
yeah,
the
yeah,
level of intensity is like so high that you're going to need somebody to rely on. And when you break down, and those moments came, believe me, I mean, I've shouted him out a couple of times, but like Billy Taylor and I had a phenomenal relationship, even though he was my adversary at the beginning of the both of our careers. The fact that he was able to be now I consider like a brother of mine. Like how cool is that? That somebody who I really um, kind of wanted to kick the snot out of him
yeah,
and turned into envy, turned into love. Like that kind of relationship, I think, is one that does take a lot of it takes a lot of trying moments to put you
yeah.
into that world of appreciation. But I'm grateful that I appreciate it now. And I just hope that other folks who are getting to that level of their career or are in it right now that can have those moments of like, take the deep breath,
Yeah.
realize the people who are in the locker room with you, and tell them you love them if you do, because
Yeah.
it's a special thing.
Well, this goes right back to what you said in the beginning about humbling yourself. Like you knew that your Billy's the guy, right? And you want to, like you said, kick the snot out of
Yeah.
him, but you humble yourself. Hey, you
Yep.
know what? I'm going to be with this guy. I'm going to love this guy. I'm going to be part of this guy's life, right? And you know as well as I do, there's 110, 120 guys on the team, right? You're not going to be best buddies with all of them. There's going to be somebody that you might have a little bit of whatever with, right? But when you're on the field, you're putting it all in there, and you're going to love the guy when you're on the field, right? No matter what. That's big.
Yeah. That's it.
That's big. So, talk about your identity as an athlete. A lot of people don't understand how they that identity contributes to who you are as a young man, and you're going to carry that with you for the rest of your life. Hey, man, I was a college athlete. I was a high school athlete. I was a Big Ten
Yeah.
athlete. Talk about that, what it's like to have that identity, and then talk about how, well, when the athletic world ended, because we all hang it up somewhere along the line. How did that affect you mentally, and,
Yeah.
and your identity there?
Yeah, great question. I think that it's a badge of honor. It's a feather in your cap that I had the privilege, the honor of going to a school that I loved, playing a sport that I loved, and competing at the level that I did. Like, how cool is that in the real time? It is, once again, it is appreciation, but it's also like, this is really cool and this is really unique. How can I put myself in a position to maximize where I'm at right now in my life? So when I am done school, when I am done with sport, that it meant something. I think that the word reputation and identity is very similar to the word legacy. How are people going to remember you? What are you going to leave
Mhm.
behind? So I knew that for me as an athlete, I wasn't just an athlete. I wasn't just a student athlete. I think I was a student athlete advocate. Like, that was always my story, was like, I want to put myself as the loud booming voice at the front of the room to advocate on behalf of the people that I love. Once again, that was definitely, you got to love yourself if you can love anything else. So, definitely for myself and for my teammates, for my university, and then for the Big Ten Conference. And then I was a student athlete advocate for all of Division I college athletics. Like, how cool is that, that I was able to represent something so much bigger and greater than myself? So saying that, the second part of your question there, Jeff, was how does that bleed into where you go into your life? And I think it was the same way that I went to Rutgers, was find that big pond, make it small, make it feel like it is something that means something to you, and mean something, you want to mean something to someone else. So how do you do that? I think that you be really authentic. You kind of break down those barriers of formality and say, hey, I really just kind of want to ask you some questions. Like, I'm in a state where I'm starting my career. I don't have a lot of experience in X industry, or working out to try and get ready for the NFL draft. How can you help me? I think that the world is perceived to be a very dark place, but I think it could also be a one full of goodness and full of light. And if you can find those lights, like Jeff, I would say that you're a light of my life, man. Finding those lights and allowing them to kind of shine on you in moments where you just want to learn something. That was for me. Like, even still having, I got the R on my chest right now. Like, I still show up to work as a technology consultant, and as soon as I tell people, like, oh yeah, I was a Division I college athlete, played football at Rutgers, got to do this in the NCAA, like, that was my deal. That's just a moment. You know, People don't think of me differently. They probably associate something to me, but once again, that contributes to what is my legacy? How is this person going to remember me? After that, it's like, are they going to think of me, Ryan Cassidy, the former Division I athlete, Big Ten University at Rutgers? Are they going to think like, oh, that guy sucked, I really didn't enjoy his presence? Or after it, is it going to be like, stand-up guy? I mean, stand-up human being, really cares about others, just wants to do good, hard, honest work, valuable work, contribute to something in this world. And then they're going to leave that saying like, all right, you know, Division I athletes aren't too bad. Big
Yeah.
Ten athletes aren't too bad. Rutgers ain't too bad. And I think that leaving conversations with people, just even in the street, if I'm wearing Rutgers clothes or if I'm wearing just a regular gray sweatshirt, I want people to remember the name Ryan Cassidy for something that meant goodness and honesty and truthfulness and a lot of moxie and a lot of grit.
Well, it's amazing what you're saying. And first of all, you're how old now?
25.
25. So you got in 10 years, you know what you can run for?
Hey, it could be president, man. Who
Yeah.
knows? Who
I'm just
knows?
start laying the groundwork now, because we're going to
Yeah.
need a good one.
Hey,
10 years from now, we're going to need a new president of the United States.
it would be
I
my
can see
honor,
you doing
Jeff.
it. I can see you doing it.
Hey,
I'm
well,
telling you, I can see you doing it.
I
But you
appreciate it.
mentioned, what do you leave behind? And that's a reputation, and talk about that for a second. Is what do you do to build and grow your reputation? Because your reputation, everybody I talk to, that when your name comes up, trust me, every time I talk to a Rutgers guy, I'm like, hey, Ryan Cassidy? They're like, oh my God, yeah, I know him. He was great. He was this. Your reputation is just impeccable. But talk about how you built that. How much effort did you put into that to get it to where the entire Rutgers community knows who you are?
Oh, Jeff, that means the world, man. I mean, j being 3 years out of school now and still hearing that, as in that legacy is still alive, but is not one that has gone into existence, really means a whole heck of a lot. And I'm gonna give two references here, and it's definitely to my family and to a quote. I'm gonna talk about my family because they're collectively my hero. My mom, my dad, and my brother. My mom's a breast cancer survivor. My
Mm,
dad made it out of the inner city in Philadelphia and was able to graduate from Villanova, great university, provide a life for myself and my family, his family, a life that he never had. And then my older brother, 3 years older than me, Craig Cassidy, he's everything that a human being should be. He's got a phenomenal relationship. He's devoted himself to his education, to his craft as an athlete. He's a kickboxing coach. Like, he's a phenomenal employee. Like, works at a great company. Like, employee of the month type stuff. And I'm like, these three people, my mom, my dad, and my brother, they make up who I am. So my mom is my heart. She has, I know that this is right now. My left pec is the Rutgers block R, but this heart is my mother's. I'd like to say that my head is my dad's. My dad has a phenomenal head on his shoulders, and he taught me that, when it's funny, Jeff, this is the little peek behind the curtain of the Cassidy household, but he had four words for me in my life. In the house, one word: think. Think about what you're doing. Is there a piece of, garbage in the ground that you got to clean your room up? Like, just think about something to make your environment better. And then outside of the house, it was, don't be stupid.
mm,
Just don't do anything that puts you into a position of, you want to talk about vulnerability. Don't get locked up.
yeah.
Don't do anything where you're harming your reputation. But at the same time, have some fun. Make sure that people remember you, and don't be stupid. And then my brother, I would say that my brother's my gut. Any decision that I think I need to make that is important and is heavy and is going to have some positive or negative ramifications in my life, I think, what will my brother do? He has made some phenomenal decisions. He's also made bad ones. We're all humans, but I think that having my brother there as a role model to see, his thought process of things is so meticulous. It's so mechanical.
Yeah.
And I think that the fact that I have my mom, my dad, and my brother to make me who I am, I couldn't be, more fortunate, because I'm nothing without them. But yeah, to go into like the reputation piece, man, like, Jeff, I think you do the same thing, that you just want to make people feel good. You want to make people remember you for something that means something. But the quote that I wanted to reference was said by the horseman himself, Mr. Teddy Roosevelt. You want to talk about a president? He's not too bad. He said that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you
You
care.
can. Yep.
So going into a call with you, and if I start off and I say, hey, Jeff, I've been doing this X, Y, and Z at work lately. I've been accomplishing this much. This is how much, sales we're doing, me and my brother's new business. Like, you don't care about that, man. I want to know, me genuinely, I want to know, we talked about it beforehand. Um, you know, how is your family doing? Your daughters, your son, like, what's going on with you? Like, what are the schools that you're representing now? Like, the things that I think connect to people's hearts are
Yeah.
the things that intrigue me the most and pique my curiosity, because that's what human evolution is about, Jeff. It's about looking people in the eye and thinking, what are you thinking? How do you approach your life? Taking tools from other people's toolboxes and using them as your own, not taking them, but like taking a note from people and saying, like, okay, I've learned a lot from you, Jeff, and a lot of other mentors and people in my life, coaches, teammates, my family for sure. And I think that I'm just a product of my environment. I'm a product of being around phenomenal people. And, it's so true that if you surround yourself with four good people, you're going to be the fifth pretty
Yeah.
darn soon. Pretty darn soon. So I think that I'm just fortunate to have been in the right places at the right times. But also, I've had moments where I'm like, damn, like why am I not making the right decision? Why am I not doing this? Hey, everybody listening, and Jeff, it, that's a part of life.
Yeah.
Don't cry about it. Don't, I mean, maybe cry about it. There could be a moment where you're like, hey, I got to let it out. But come back from it. What's your response going to be? The moments themselves, the things that kind of kick you down, they're just a moment in time. What's your response going to be? What are you going to learn from it? And how's that going to be a part of your legacy?
I can't get out of my head here what you said about your dad, your mom, and your brother. Do you have that on the wall somewhere?
And no, man, it's stuck in my heart, it's stuck in my head.
You got to put that on
I,
the.
you
Do
know,
they know? Do they know this? Have you told them this?
Yeah, they know they're my hero. I have wristbands, and this is actually kind of a shout out to Coach Yano as
Yep.
well. So this says BKCR. That is Bob, Kathy, Craig, and Ryan. That's me and my family. And
Yep.
then we got family itself,
Yep.
FAMILY. So that's forget about me, I love you. Shout out
Yep.
Coach Yano. Shout out Rutgers football. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think I've always had these like little fortune cookie thoughts.
Yeah.
These thoughts that are like a quick moment in time that I think have stuck with me. And I don't know if it's like I have a photographic memory or I just think about these things in my own head and my thoughts pretty often. But I just have a heart full of gratitude, man. Like how can you go out into this world as a guy like me who has had, so many different influences, positive influences and opportunities to just kind of be myself. Like, I got to make the most of it, man.
Yeah.
And, I know you didn't ask a question on this. You said, how do you remember that about my family? But like, I was actually a miracle baby, man. Like, I wasn't supposed to be born. So before I was born, my mom was like, getting tests, ultrasounds and everything. I was pre-diagnosed with trisomy 18, which is a fatal chromosome abnormality, chances of living weekday to pray to God that, hey, I just pray that my second son is born. And I came out March 31st, 1999, a little ball and bundle of energy and joy. And, here we are now. And my parents didn't tell me that until I was probably about 12 or 13 years old when I could really comprehend the severity of that kind of situation. And I just thought to myself, like, geez, I got to make the most of this life. I got to go and
You're here
talk to
for a
people. I
reason. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's it. Like I was already given my second chance, Jeff. I don't think I got many more chances left, but I mean, once again, I'm 25. I'm gonna let it rip. I'm gonna wake up every single day. I'm gonna talk to good people. I'm gonna put myself in really tough situations, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I'm gonna get out on the other side better of it.
Well, again, you're reading my mind because everybody's listening. Like, this guy's got the perfect life. This guy says all the right things. This guy does all the right things. How hard can this guy's life be? Well, let's go into
Uh,
some deep stuff. Let's talk about, mentally. Like, talk about, like, how did you handle the mental stresses of being a college athlete, going to school? I know you had injuries, right? Yeah, you had all that kind of stuff going on. You had the sack. You're the leader of the school, leader of the athletic department, you're leader of the Big Ten. How the heck did you handle the mental stress of all that? Because you had to have some tough times somewhere with all that piling up.
No doubt, no doubt. And honestly, Jeff, there was a moment in time that I will never forget. It was November of 2018, so my sophomore season. And you just said it. I was in the middle of what would be perceived to be a phenomenal life, a lot of cool things going on. I'm playing for Division I school, growing the and rising the ranks of the student athlete advisor committee from campus level to the conference level to the national level. I had every resource that I needed in my life, but I wasn't fulfilled in any way. I wasn't fulfilled with the way that I was performing. I didn't play. I wasn't performing academically very well. At that point in my life, I really pulled myself to just show up to practice. And you never want to be in that state where it's like I just need to show up. That's it. Like the going through the motions mentality is one that is simply going to have you blink and wake up one day and it is 50 years later. I didn't say five, I didn't say 15, I said 50. If you really do not take a breath and look around and say, like, what am I struggling with and address it, your life will go by in the flash of an eye. So, that point in time, November of 2018, I'll be honest with you, Jeff, I had a really tough time just like living and just being a human being, nonetheless being a student athlete at that level with so many different responsibilities. To be candid, and I've talked to many therapists between then and now about like, there were some days that driving to practice or driving to somewhere at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning, that like I would have been fine just driving off the road and that was it. You get behind the wheel and you feel like you're a danger and a harm to yourself. Like that's not anything that anybody wants to go through. So, talk to somebody then at Rutgers through the HOPE program, so health outreach and programming education. The crazy thing about that story though, Jeff, is like I went to this person in the HOPE program because I was supposed to be, once again, an advocate. I was supposed to be a peer mentor to talk about mental health stigmas that I was going through as if I was on the other side of it, that I was better than it, that I didn't need the programming that I was giving to other people. And it was one night that I'll never forget it. And I don't remember what this person's name was, but I think she saved my life. I sat there, and as everybody left that house, there was a house where this program conducted their trainings for the people who were peer mentors. And there was one woman who was just kind of sitting there, and I don't know what it was. I was very emotional. All my friends had left, other student athlete mentors. And I was just like, can I just talk to you? And I really just kind of took about 2 to 3 hours, probably until like 11 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. And I was just like, can I just talk to you? And I really let it all out. And this person was so helpful for me because, I'm a big analogy guy, Jeff. I've probably used 100 in just this time that we've had together. But, you hold a glass of water for 5 minutes, not too bad. You hold that glass of water for 5 hours, gets a little heavy. You hold that glass of water for 5 months, 5 years, that is going to feel like the heaviest weight you have ever felt in your entire life. So I realized like I just needed to get it out. I needed to talk about my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions in a way that was liberating and was freeing. Because if you don't do that, even if you're talking to God, you're talking to the floor, you're talking to your cat, you're talking to your dog, you're talking to your gecko, I don't freaking care who it is or what it is. If you can release in ways that are cathartic and psychologically, emotionally appealing to you, then do it. I really, really am a big proponent of just feeling your feelings. I'm a big emotional sappy baby. Ask anybody who's ever met me, my family, my friends, my teammates. I cry probably 3 or 4 times a day, and I'm cool with it. I'm still living my life. I'll take the heavy hitting, or not even heavy hitting, the low hitting jokes that's like, oh, you're an emotional baby. I'll take those in the chin, Jeff. All right. That's fine with me because I think that there's going to be a lot of moments, and I think Jimmy V said it best that you should try to do 3 things a day, and it's you want to spend some time in thought, like think about something, be able to comprehend something that is deeper than once again just the surface that like the surface level and whatever is face value. Think about something. Number one, number two, laugh. Allow your emotions, allow something to bring you to the point of laughter, and think something is funny or humorous and comedic relief, even if you think it's tough to be in that spot mentally. Like just try to laugh about something. And lastly is allow your emotions to bring you to tears. If you can cry, that means you're feeling. You'd rather be feeling every emotion in the world, good or bad, than feeling nothing at all. And I think that a lot of us have hit points in our life where it's like, yeah, I've felt nothing at all. I don't know what's on the other side of that. And it goes back to what we started off by saying, like, find a support system. Be your own support system sometimes. Having different forums and different environments in your life that are like, hey, this is the spot that I really feel myself. For me, Jeff, it's speaking. It's literally doing this right now. This
Yeah.
for me, this is my dumping out of the water for the week, for the month, maybe for the friggin' year, man. I don't even know. But it's a moment that I feel good talking to you right now. And I think that everybody should find that spot in their life to really find what's their safe haven.
Ryan, that's first of all, thank you for having the courage to talk about that, because I'm going to guess that everybody listening up to that point is going to say, this kid's got no problems. This kid's got no mental. This kid's got nothing he's worried about. This kid's got a perfect life, you know?
Yeah.
And that's where, that's what this program is about, Ryan, is to, for the, like, there's guys walking around, girls walking around campuses, out of school, they're in the pro life, professional life, and there's things going on mentally, and they're not willing to talk about it for fear of being stigmatized, or it's embarrassing, or everyone's going to know. So
Yeah.
now for people to know that you had your struggles and you found a way to get help, you found a way out of it.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean it stays that way perfect forever? No, we're going to go up and have peaks and valleys all the time. But to have the courage to tell people like, hey man, I don't have the perfect life, even though it looks like it from this outside looking in, this guy's perfect, and to have the courage to tell
Yeah.
that story, that's just that's incredible. Thank you for opening up and talking about that. So let's keep moving forward,
Of course,
right?
man.
Football is coming to an end, right? Or comes to an end. College is over, but how did sports help you with regards to competing professionally after school's over?
Yeah, I think I realized that I needed to compete in some athletic competition that I have embarked in the last 3 years has been co-ed slow pitch softball and pickleball and
Okay.
maybe a flag football league here and there. That's it, man. It's not Big Ten strapping it up, going against some of the most elite athletes in the world. So being able to translate what I had done as an athlete into the same sort of mentality into my life as a consultant now. Um, we talked about earlier about the level of intensity at the Division I level. At Rutgers, like Coach Shiano and even Coach Ash before, that level is inflicted upon you every single day. So as a consultant at, a large company, I work at Accenture, I realized that I really had to lock in. I had to know once again, what was my role? Where was I giving value? I thought that I was going to go into this world of technology and maybe be a sales guy, maybe talk to a lot of people and say, hey, I think I got something that can really help you out. I think that my selfless nature is one that is kind of appealing in the world of sales, but that's just not a world that I wanted to live in. So it's like I wanted to control my journey. And you said it earlier about like, hey, if you're a recruit who's a sophomore, junior, senior in high school right now, try to dictate your journey. I think that for me, I don't know if I did that enough. I don't know if I went to enough camps. I don't know if I emailed enough people. Maybe there was an opportunity out there that I could have gone to a different school, but in retrospect, I'm glad I went to the one that I did. But I forged a community and created a community of sports at a company where sports really weren't very apparent. They weren't very visible in the work that we did. We work with a lot of like great clients with a lot of great resources, and now with artificial intelligence coming into the world. But I realized that for me, I'm the human guy. The word artificial means something synthetic of what is supposed to be real. And, do I think that artificial intelligence is going to help the world? Absolutely. It is going to change the world. It is going to help people's lives get so much better. Enterprises, businesses operate with complete efficiency and speed and a lean nature that cuts costs and expenses and stuff like that. Like, but I'm not going to get into the jargon there. I realized that for me, I got to keep the human nature of consulting, which is delivering work that people can once again connect with and think like, okay, Ryan and this company and this team really helped me out a lot right now. Is that solution sustainable? How long are they going to help me for? Like, do I have to come back and call them and say, hey, Ryan, we need you again? So once again, to talk about translating it from sport to the professional world, I think it would be once again knowing your role. What is your team? And then what do you want the outcome to be? Is your outcome to win a championship? I think that for me as a consultant, us the championship is probably quarterly earnings and that, but also there's going to be a story along the way, right? You asked me about the moment earlier, like what feeds into the moment, what is the moment itself, and then what comes after? Because I think that the story is always going to be unwritten. There's always going to be more pages for people to write in those stories. So for me as an athlete, I think that a lot of what I took, it's so cliche, but it was my mentality, it was my heart. And for me, like I just said that word heart, like that's the thing for me, Jeff, that is never going to change. That's the one non-negotiable for me that regardless of where I am, whether I was in the NFL, wasn't in the cards for me, whether I am, in the world of consulting, I'm never going to lose my heart. So I would say in a piece of advice, find what the non-negotiable is for you and amplify it. Give it the fuel that it needs to shine. Make it a fire and give it fuel. Let it burn bright. Let it burn hard. I'm a man of faith, and my favorite Bible verse is Matthew 5:16, which is um, a light built on, or yeah, I think it's a city built on a hill cannot be hidden. I think that means that everybody's got their light in their world, and everybody has a way to express themselves. So it's like, let your light shine, let your light shine. And I think I was able to do that as an athlete, growing up in high school, and even though it wasn't as visible in my college career, still was able to do some cool things and take that into my life now.
Well, Ryan, I gotta tell you this right now. You're shining like very brightly.
Thanks,
You
man.
know, everything you touch shines. So so everybody's I'm gonna guess, I'm putting myself in everybody else's mind right now listening to this. They're probably saying, this guy probably had it all mapped out. This guy knows exactly what he wants. This guy knows exactly where he wanted to go. When you were in school, did you have any type of clear career path? Hey, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing, and I know exactly what I'm doing, or did you have some bumps in the road trying to figure that out?
I think that early on, a lot of college athletes think sport, whether that is in the professional sense that I want to play professionally or I just want to be around sport. And yeah, honestly, that's still kind of in my DNA right now as a technology consultant. But freshman year, I would say my mentality was like, I don't know, maybe it's real estate, something businessy, something where I can, put on a corporate hat and represent something to go and sell services, sell kind of, some sort of mindset, because I think that people don't buy, what you have to sell. People, buy who you are. They buy like what you have to provide as an experience. So for me, I wanted to be in some sort of work that was very selfless. And early on, I thought that college athletics was selfless. I have now kind of come to realize that it is selfless for a lot of administrators, but it is also, full of a lot of politics. The conferences are now realigning in a sense that we have never seen before in college
Mm.
athletics. And we are in such a transformative time in the world of the NCAA as well that I was really a part of for all of my moments in the Student Athlete Advisor Committee. But I will say that it takes a lot of deliberation. It takes a lot of thought to think, what am I good at? And for me, Jeff, I interned with you at Mass Mutual. I love the world of financial advisory, wealth management, creating plans for folks to make their lives better now, near future, far future, the rest of their lives. I think that is phenomenal. I learned a lot working with you. Does that mean that I'm never going to come back to that industry ever again? No, who knows? I'm never going to say never.
Well,
But I
if
will
you
say
do, you're
that
coming here.
Jeff, you already told me the day that I left the internship that if I find you in this industry and you're not working with me, you're gonna have a bone to pick. So
There's
you
going to
got
be a
my number.
problem. There will be a
Yeah,
problem.
you got my number, man. You got my number.
Uh,
But yeah, man, I found like my junior year that I really think that alongside my heart that is innately just a part of me, I think that the thing for me is just problem solving. Like I want to be faced with something that's tough. I want to create a solution either myself or alongside other people with resources and tools that I have in my toolbox to create something that is a game plan. That's kind of going back to sport as well, is what's the X and O? What are you going to do on third and short? What are you going to do on second and long? How are you going to punt the ball right now? How are you going to potentially run a trick play? What does that trick play mean? Kind of converting the schematics of the game of football specifically into my life, I think was one that was like, okay, I understand how things work. So that's kind of where I'm at in my life now is like, okay, I understand how technology works. Does that mean that I am the person who is executing every single position at every point in time? Absolutely not. I was a long snapper. I ended up playing fullback. I knew that my role was one of 11. Maybe now on my team as a consultant, I'm only one of five. And like, that's okay. I know that I'm 20% of our output. So it's like, what does that 20% mean? And can I do a little more than 20%? Does that get us to over delivering for something? So I think that it's a lot about like being where your feet are, looking yourself in the mirror with a lot of intent, with a lot of, once again, vulnerability and saying, what am I good at? And how can I grow these skills somewhere that I feel good about what I'm doing and the people I'm doing it with?
I tell you, your answers are almost perfect. They just
Ah,
come out, and
hey,
the stories are like the articulation and the pinpoint of accuracy is like it's phenomenal. So,
thanks.
advice to the young guy they come out, it's their senior year in college or 1 year out. What kind of advice can you give these guys? What they're going to face? What they're going to face in the real world? Because when you come out of college, like you get hit in the face, like, oh my God, this is the real world. This was nothing like college. What kind of advice can you give the younger athletes about preparing for what they're going to face when the sport is over, school is over, it's real world, it's go to work? What are they going to face?
Don't lose who you are. Don't lose who you are. Don't lose how you were raised. Don't lose the things that are chips in your shoulder. I'm still going to give him his flowers. Isaiah Pacheco had a tough, tough, tough childhood. The way that he was able to parlay that into as successful as he was in high school, into how successful he was in college, he is at the peak of the mountain right now. And just this is me as a teammate talking about somebody else, not even myself. I think that he never lost that chip on his shoulder. Listen to every single commentator that has talked about how hard he runs, and I will never forget it. The first thing that myself and my teammates said, as soon as we saw him touch the rock when he was a freshman in the spring of 2018, was he runs like he's been through something. And I think that if you can do the things in your life and kind of like at the very lowest of keys, like kind of pay homage to the things that you have gone through, keeping those chips on your shoulder, keeping those memories and those scars almost. I'm going to be honest. Like I think that there's actually a concept called kintsukuroi, a Japanese concept that when there's a vase, for example, and there's a crack in that vase, maybe it falls over at a dinner event or something like that, instead of trying to create some sort of not distraction, but some sort of covering on top of that crack and maybe put it in the same color so people don't notice. You highlight it in gold. Make people, there's a story behind it. There's something that it means to me. But I think that idea, like hold your scars close to your chest because those things are a part of your story. Those things are going to be a part of the reason why you keep going. It's pretty funny. I go to the gym every day, Jeff, and I think of every moment where somebody has doubted me or somebody has believed in me. And I think to myself, I got to prove people right and I got to prove people wrong. And I think that the more that you can kind of keep those things that are innately a part of you, still a part of your DNA, I think it's going to help people. So you asked the question of like seniors in college right now, even seniors in high school, maybe they're just going into the world. Like, can continue to keep that competitive edge because it's going to set you apart from everybody else. I love all the people I work with who are not college athletes, but they don't have the grit. They
Right.
don't have that edge. They don't have that X factor that is something that is so attractive. Jeff, you said it the second that the four of us walked in as interns for you in 2019, that it is such an X factor that is easily identifiable. It is
Right.
something that you truly cannot extract
No.
from a person. It has to be there. It has to exist. It has to have a beating heart. And the cool thing about having that beating heart of the edge and the moxie is that you get to have the blood flow through it. You get to, use a machine and physically pump that blood through that beating heart to say, I want to keep that alive. So keep that competitive edge, stay who you are, and you really will have to ask a lot of questions too. For me, I got denied by the consulting company I worked at. Funny story, like I applied to 30 consulting firms on the dot, my 30 for 30 story, ESPN style. Got denied by all 30. Should I have given you a call, Jeff?
Yeah.
Maybe I should have, but I didn't. I probably should have, but I didn't, man. I knew that I belonged at one of those places, regardless of whether they were going to deny me or not. And, I ended up leveraging a relationship from my football program to get to the recruiter to Accenture, the company I'm at now. And it was like, okay, my relationship and my demeanor, like you've mentioned a couple times, has got me this opportunity. It's got my quote unquote foot in the door. Get that foot in the door and friggin', take the door down, burst it down. Do it with a lot of respect and a lot of a humble nature, but also do it with a lot of grace. I think that I had a lot to learn from when I got denied by all 30 consulting firms, and I wanted to go into my next interview in a way that they knew that, hey, Ryan Cassidy is somebody who is definitely in a position of a lot of potential, but also what is he ready for right now? It's almost like showing up for day one of camp your freshman year. So I say to everybody who's graduating, think about the first day that you started high school, that you started college. It's going to be the same thing as you start your life. It's going to be a little bit of nerves. You kind of look to your left, look to your right. Who are the people that I'm working for, working alongside? And if you don't have that job yet, it's like getting recruited again. Create that recruiting journey for yourself and get to where you want to be, because I think that a lot of people have a lot more control over their lives than they may think. And if you don't think you have that control, you can give me a call and I'll tell you where you got that control.
That's awesome. I can't believe anybody would doubt you. I can't
Yeah,
believe it.
I mean, hey man, sometimes a lot of people in a lot of people's lives are simply just maybe having a bad day. But some of the times that people were maybe having a bad day and they said, I don't think Ryan's capable of that. That could have been just a moment in time. They could have come back the next day, Jeff, and said, hey, I didn't mean what I said yesterday. That was a scar for me,
Right.
man, and I'm gonna wear that scar for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna make sure that that person, even if it was like a momentary deal that they doubted me, that they will never feel that ever again. I think that that kind of mentality is one that truly only an athlete has. It's a phenomenal chip to have on your shoulder to, you can forgive, but never forget things. That's why, like, at all these answers I'm giving you, man, it's up in my head, it's in my
Yeah.
heart, it's in my gut.
It's just
It's just
flowing.
it flows, man. You're right. It flows like a river for sure. But just never forget those moments, because I think that everybody is a collection of their own experiences.
Wow. So Ryan, man, I'll tell you, your story is incredible, and I know that the younger generation out there, or even the older generation, the guys that are years ahead of you, are going to listen and say, man, why didn't I think the way he did back when I was in school, or back when I was playing? Or maybe I should start thinking the way he does now, right?
Huh.
But I've asked you a ton of questions, right? And you've been humble, you've been gracious. It's just incredible the answers you're giving. Is there anything else that I haven't asked you yet that you think that the audience should know and hear before we end the show?
Yeah, Jeff, this is actually, I got one more quote left for you, man. I promise this is the last
Okay.
one. And this will be the moment where I can kind of give myself my own flowers, because this was something that I said to my last team that I quote unquote competed for in the NCAA, and that was the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. At the end of my tenure as the chair of Division One, I looked at everybody for my final moment in that group, and I was like, this is it. This is the last time that I will be looked at with this level of leverage as a college athlete, like somebody who is a role model to other people, is somebody who is idealized by high school athletes, somebody who is loved and supported by the people in my life, my community. I looked at everybody and I was like, hey, I was a walk-on. I didn't play. I didn't have a lot of moments of triumph. I definitely had moments of sorrow, but at the same time, I think that, my story was one that started off. My childhood was great, but I said it, my mom's a breast cancer survivor. I lost my uncle to a heroin addiction. He got shot in the street of Philadelphia. You wouldn't expect that. You wouldn't expect the hardships of, losing jobs, almost losing houses, like financially struggling. Like, you don't see that when you look at Ryan Cassidy or when you hear him. But I say all of that just to say that think about the stories of heroes and villains. They all start off the same way. They're ostracized. They're left out of the loop. They're put into a serious situation of adversity. And then, they think to themselves, what happens next? I think that the difference between heroes and villains is their response. The villains go about their days and think that I want to make sure that everybody in the world feels what I felt, but worse. I want to make sure that there is never a moment in time where anybody feels any more joy than I have ever felt. And I think that that is a very vengeful perspective, and one that I've never condoned, or really tried to embody. But the hero, man, the hero, the underdog, the person that says, I never want a single human being, living, breathing thing in this planet to feel what I had felt. I want them to feel joy. I want them to feel the euphoria, whether that is stepping onto a Division I college football field, whether it's walking into Mass Mutual as an intern, whether it's starting your career as a consultant, whether it's just living your life, whatever your environment is. Go about every single day and think to yourself that I want the world to feel what I have felt, but more. I want them to feel good. I want them to feel pure happiness, because that's what this world's about, man. I go back to human evolution. It's about relationships and moments. And the more that you can have good relationships and good people in your life, the more that you create those moments, and the more that you get to the end of your life and say, hey, I did something pretty cool.
Man, that is incredible. Do you have an S on your chest underneath that shirt?
Superman? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I've done Clark Kent a couple times. I got the glasses for it too.
I'll tell you, Ryan, you are a hero, and to the people that are listening, I mean, you're a superhero out there. You are impacting so many people along the way. I mean, it's not just like one or two kids here or there. You've impacted thousands of people.
Thank you.
And the ripple effect just continues to go and to go and to go. I'm telling you, I know we were kind of kidding around before, but I think the minimum age to be a president of the United States is 35,
It
you know,
is.
and man, I can see you doing it. I already said you'd be the run the Big Ten or run the whatever, but I can see you running the country, you
Hey,
know.
man. I think that this world needs a lot more conversations like this, a lot more times. Just be like, hey, let's call the spade a spade. Let's be real. Let's open up our hearts. Let's be vulnerable with one another. And I think that we'll find some cool moments with each other.
No, oh, yeah, without a doubt. Well, Ryan, listen, thank you again for being on the show. Really appreciate it. There's so many people going to hear this and be inspired. And I want to have you, let's let some time go by and accomplish some more stuff. And I want to bring you back. I want people to hear the ongoing story of Ryan Cassidy because
Yeah.
you're only 25. Imagine where you're at 30, what you're going to be doing. It's just incredible. But thanks for being on the show. And I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah, man, the story's still unwritten. There's a lot more that I got left in the tank, a lot more of my journey to be unfolded. But I really appreciate the time, man. Go Knights.
That's it.